Fam, how are you? What's cracking? I know everything looks different, but let me tell you why it looks so weird. First and foremost, before we get started, you are joining me for the 5 W's that you need for the day within 10 minutes. Now, the reason why everything looks so different is because I've been having problems with my computer, so I figured I would go ahead and do this on my tablet. See, I be forgetting that I'm a Gen Xer and I'll be knowing all this stuff, but guess what? Where there's a will, there's a way. All right. So before we get started, please like, share, and subscribe. JollyStudios at gmail.com, www at jollystudios.com. So you're going to be seeing me do things manually. I don't usually do it like this, but guess what? We're going to do it like this today. All right. Now, let's discuss what we are here to talk about. Now, right now, you guys, we are in the chapter of Genesis. We're in the book of Genesis. Now, currently, we're going to talk about chapter 4 today, but we're going to circle back around to chapter 3. Now, in chapter 3 was the fall of man, meaning that that's when Adam and Eve disobeyed God by eating out of the fruit of the tree of life and knowledge. Okay. Now, really, what happened is Eve, she listened to the serpent and then she convinced Adam to listen to her, even though God told Adam specifically not to eat off that tree. So, of course, they ate off the tree. They were banished from the Garden of Eden. And now we are in chapter 4. So, let's discuss it. So, first things first, who is all in chapter 4? Well, let's talk about it. Adam and Eve, which are the first man and woman. We got Cain, their firstborn son, who was the farmer. We got Adam, who was the second born son, and he was the shepherd. We have, of course, God. God is in this because he's the one that's going to receive the offering from Cain and Abel. He's the one that's going to judge those offering. And depending on the offering, that's when everything else is going to happen after that. Then also, too, there's Seth. If you guys don't know who Seth is, I didn't know who Seth was, but we're going to talk about who Seth is in a minute. Seth is the brother of Cain. I would say Abel, but Abel won't be here. Okay? Then we have the descendants of Cain, which is Enoch, Lamech, and the other representatives of the beginning of civilization. Okay? Now, now that we got through that, let's talk about what was going on. Well, this is what was going on. Cain and Abel both were bringing offerings to God. Abel brings his best flock, and Cain brings his produce from the ground. Okay. Now God accepts Abel's offering because he knew that it came from his heart, and he rejects Cain's. Cain was so angry and jealous about it that he unalives Abel in the field. And then he hides. And then when God confronts him about it, what happens? He just hides. So God confronts him. And then what does God do? God curses him and makes him a restless wanderer. What does that mean? That means that he is sent and banished out of Eden, but God puts a covering over his head, meaning that nobody can hurt him or harm him. So that means he was banished, but God still allowed him to live. Okay? So he was just, but he was merciful. Okay? Then Cain goes on to Eden, builds a city, and then his descendants develop early culture in that city. Now, Adam and Eve, they end up having another child. Remember, we talked about Seth? Seth is the last born son, and he is the one that is going to continue the godly bloodline. Okay? Now, let's talk about when. When did all this happen? Well, this takes place after Adam and Eve were banished from the Garden of Eden. That happened in chapter 3 of Genesis. So you would need to catch up in order to catch up with us right now. Okay? That's when that happened. Now, let's talk about the where. Where did this all happen? Well, this happened outside the Garden of Eden where Adam and Eve um were living. Okay. Cain unalives Abel in the field. All right. Cain settles in the land of Nod, east of Eden, where he builds his city for his descendants. All right. Now, Let's talk about the why. The why. Why did all this happen? To show consequences of sin spreading from disobedience to violence to murder, right? Now, this also shows to illustrate how worship of God requires sincerity of heart, not just outwardly offerings. That means that when he was talking about Adam, he was talking about Cain and Abel. He knew that Abel gave his best, and he knew that Cain did not. So it's the same thing with us. Even though we can outwardly show other people that we're doing what we're doing, God basically is saying he knows what's in our heart. So be careful with that because he knows what's in our heart. All right. Now, to highlight God's justice by punishing Cain and mercy, protecting him from death. So see, there was justice and there was mercy. Justice, mercy. Justice by punishing him, mercy by allowing him to live. All right. Now, also, to explain the origins of early human society, cities, farming, music, tools, and family lines. That means that when Cain built his city, that's where all of this came from. The farming, music, tools, family lines. All of that was built east of Eden. Not in Eden, east of Eden. Okay? Now, also to prepare for the line of Seth through which the story of redemption will continue. That means Seth will carry on the godly bloodline. All right? That would have been something that would have happened between Cain and Abel. But guess what? We know what happened with that. Okay? So now, let's talk about the takeaways. So, y'all, what are the takeaways? Well, one of the takeaways are, okay, which is worship is about the heart, not about the offering. Once again, remember what God said? God was appreciative and was happy with Abel's offering, but not with Cain's. Abel gave his best and Cain did not. That is the reason why we're talking about this. God wants us to give him his best, okay? And he knows what the best is. But it's not about God knowing. It's about us knowing and it's about us giving our best. Okay? Now, sin starts small but grows deadly if unchecked. Well, we know that that's true because guess why? Look what happened. Sin started with Adam and Eve. Then it ended up with Cain. Started with Adam and Eve in Genesis what? Genesis 1. And then in Genesis 4, it ends up with Cain. Cain ends up unaliving his brother. See how it was a snowball effect? That's exactly what happened. Sin going unchecked. Okay? Sin going unchecked. Now, also too, God is just but also merciful. Cain faced consequences. Okay, those consequences were banishment, restlessness. Yet God marked him so he would not be killed. Justice and mercy walked hand in hand. Justice, mercy, justice, mercy. God will be just with you, but he will be merciful as well. God will be just with me. He will be merciful as well. God is just and merciful. All right. Now, human culture and civilization grows alongside sin. That means, you know how they say the wheat with the terry? Okay. That means it's never separated. That means that we'll be in this world with sin, walking along with goodness. Okay. It is up to us. God gives us free will to make the choice of what we do. Now we have been given this Bible. We also have a pastor, a preacher, or a bishop, whoever you are going to church under. And guess what? You decide good and bad. But let me tell you something. Those commandments is in here. So it's up to us to make the choice. It's up to us to decide to do good or to do evil. Now, our last but not least, a new hope is born through Seth. Remember, Seth is going to be the godly bloodline of God. Seth was the last child born to Adam and Eve, and he is the one that's going to carry on that bloodline. After tragedy, God provides another line, which is Seth, through which people began to call on the name of the Lord, pointing forward to redemption. And look at that. We got through all of that. So, you guys, that was chapter 4 of Genesis. Okay? That was chapter 4. Look how fast we got through it. Now, listen, next week is going to be chapter 5. I have no clue what's going to be in chapter 5. Well, I do have a clue, but remember, I'm going to be studying it this time. Okay? So, please, if you get a chance, before you come on here, go through chapter 5. So we all know it together. So when I go through these W's, you can go through just as quick as me. Now, before you leave, please like, share, and subscribe at jollystudios at gmail.com, www.jollystudios.com. Now, I'll be here next week. I don't know what day. So please subscribe and hit that little bell. So that way you'll know exactly when I will be on here. Okay? I appreciate you guys coming. I love you. Thank you so much. And I'll see you next week. Remember, Genesis chapter 5. Get in there. Get to reading it, okay? Talk to you then. Bye bye.